Well, what happened was that second game, we got our ass kicked, or the second half. We just got our ass totally kicked. We couldn't do diddly poo offensively. We couldn't make a first down. We couldn't run the ball. We didn't try to run the ball. We couldn't complete a pass. We sucked. The second half, we sucked. We couldn't stop the run. Every time they got the ball, they went down and got points. We got our ass totally kicked in the second half. That's what it boiled down to. It was a horse performance in the second half. Horse. I'm totally embarrassed and totally ashamed. Coaching did a horrible job. The players did a horrible job. We got our ass kicked in that second half. It sucked. It stunk.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? This is Kill the Boxscore. I'm here tonight with my homie and my co-host, K-Dub, Kevin Williams, and tonight we have Rob on the show, FSU fan. You can't give somebody good taste, but hey, I think you both. He's the Miami fan, and you like FSU, so we got a good rivalry tonight. Anyway, this is the inaugural episode, and we're here tonight. We're gonna talk a little college football. We're gonna start off first with college football, then we're gonna move to the NFL. First off, I want to say we lost a legend of the sport this week. We lost Gale Sayers, the Kansas Comet. In my opinion, one of the top 5 or running backs of all time. I know other people have other opinions, but just want to say rest in peace to Gale. So some news came out tonight, which I think that ought to make you a little bit happy, Kevin, concerning the Pac-12. I do believe this is the clip. No. Anyway, the Pac-12 announced their season to start this year, I believe in November, with a 7-game slate. Now, my question here is, like, how relevant can they possibly be with only a 7-game schedule to the playoffs? Because really, at max, they're going to get 8 games, which would put their 2 best teams in the championship. I haven't seen their full slate of the schedule, but if they've set up anywhere like the Big Ten, their best teams are going to be undefeated. Because when the Big Ten gave the first 2 months, Ohio State's going to blow everybody out by 20. So they just wanted to showcase Ohio State. How big they literally set down. And then the Big Ten, have you seen their schedule? None of their good teams play each other. They don't cross over the divisions. So it's they really set it up for them to have 2 undefeated teams in the Big Ten championship, so that they can make sure they have a great argument to get one of them into the playoffs. And Kevin, what do you think about that 12? And if they only do, they only got 8 games max, should that team be allowed in the playoffs?
So, I mean, I have to say that I don't even really – I can't even count this season. I can't. And the Pac-12 has a special place in my heart, but – and then to do 7 games, like, I would rather they just don't have a season. I don't see the point. That's not even the whole Pac-12 slate of 9 games they've been doing since, 2005, 2004, something like that. It's not even that. And the sad part is that, I mean, they could have, without getting into the COVID stuff, they could have done all of it. They could have done the full conference schedule. But if you're just going to give up on the season, then you don't half measure it. You give up on the season. And this attempt to have this, the Big Ten's doing 8 games, I think, this year. And then the Pac-12 is going to do 7. The ACC is doing maybe 10 games total. Maybe it was less. I can't remember. Pretty much no out-of-conference games are on the schedule this year, for anybody, basically. And it's just this playoff, like, it's going to be beyond asterisk worthy. It won't even be remembered, I don't think. And the Pac-12, I think, at this point would have done better just to stick to their guns. If they're going to, say, hey, we want to protect the players, just keep the season out. As far as, the Big Ten having their teams play each other, make sure they're both undefeated, that's almost par for the course with a lot of these big conferences. So it's not really too surprising. And Ohio State, I mean, they play a cupcake schedule every year for the most part. I mean, Michigan's become their whipping boy. I'm not expecting anything there. I don't think anyone else is. Michigan State, Penn State, maybe, I guess. No. it's going to be, the same four usual suspects in the playoff this year. We all know who they are. So
yeah. Real fast before I kick over to Rob, I don't care what you say or anyone says. If Oklahoma wins the national championship this year, it counts, and we're gonna count it, and it happened. All right, Rob, go ahead. I think you're on mute, buddy. There you go.
No, you have to count it because they haven't won the championship, and they've been in that role in the last couple of years, and they still haven't won it. So you definitely have to count it. But as far as the did we lose Malachi? Malachi, you still on?
Oh, Malachi dropped for a second.
No, I'm right here.
Yeah, I think.
No, I was here. I was here. I had to plug in my computer. If I have to get up, I just go off. I should have told y'all.
No, you good. Yeah. My fault, man. My fault. No, but as far as the Pac-12 goes, I agree wholeheartedly. You might as well throw away the season. It's not a real season if you're gonna cut your losses like that and only play 7 games and not a full slate of them. And that's disheartening because the Pac-12 always has good games, and especially when it comes to them late night games. When on Saturday night, we're all used to seeing them late night barn burners that go for about 60, 70 points. And we're going to all miss that because the matchups aren't going to be there. So it's disheartening that they did that. They waited way too long, in my opinion, to devise a plan and try to come up with a season. And then this is what we get. And then you also got, the weather isn't that bad in most of those areas in the country. So it's not really a weather issue. It's really just, politics. Let's be honest. It's politics.
Oregon, Washington, California. What's the other one? Oh, I think that really, man, that sums up the Pac-12 right there. Those 3 states. So not hard to see.
Agreed. Now, I'm not sure any of the Pac-12 teams would have made the playoffs anyway. I didn't have any of them in the playoffs. So, par for the course. Go play in a decent bowl game. I haven't actually got to sit down and look at the schedule because the schedule will determine for me a lot on who I'm going to pick to win the Pac-12. Probably Utah. I still think that they probably beat Oregon.
You were on Utah over Oregon last year. All year.
Hey, but I was right all year about Utah, and I kept telling people even when they lost to USC, I said they're going to get back in the top 10, and they're a legitimate playoff threat. And everybody laughed. They kept all year long. They were y'all were laughing at me. No, they're not. They're not. But they were all the way up to the last week of college football. So yeah, I was right. All right. So moving on from there. Last week I was scrolling through my news feed, and a friend of mine, Tyler Hutton, had brought up something really interesting, and I began to think about it myself. And it's about the future at UCF concerning their quarterback situation, because Mackenzie Milton should be cleared soon. And you look at their first 2 games this year. If you weren't sold on Gabriel last year, towards the end of the year, I think these first 2 games have probably sold you on Gabriel as the starting quarterback there. They're starting to really put up some points and look deadly. Like, I would take them over every team in Florida right now. I would take them over the Florida Gators. I do not care. Put them on the same field. Them boys got speed everywhere. But I haven't got to see Florida either, so I may change my mind when I get to see them. But their decision is going to be tough if Mackenzie Milton gets cleared, because Mackenzie Milton has balled during his time there. Played excellent, helped them beat Auburn. So if you're UCF at that point when he becomes cleared, what do you do with that? Do you put him in? Because if you don't put him in, he might end up, getting up out of there and going somewhere else.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Mackenzie Milton is either 4th-year junior or a 5th-year senior. He's one of those 2.
Yeah.
And then Gabriel's like a redshirt sophomore, I want to say. this year. I mean, it's no different than any other situation like this where you've got two high quality quarterbacks and you want to try to get the best out of both of them. You can't play them at the same time. If I were them, I would just roll with McKenzie because he's going to be gone for a year, one way or another. I would just put him out there, and I think they have a strong enough. If they have a strong enough coaching staff and locker room, it shouldn't be a problem. And then Gabriel, he's just waiting in the wings. You know how teams do it sometimes. Certain staffs they play up to their seniors, to the team captains and everything. And Mackenzie Milton's got to be a captain or close to it. I mean, so I would just give the credit to him. Plus, he's led him to such high success. I haven't seen Gabriel do that, but of course, as we know with UCF and these G5 schools, they don't really always get the opportunities that they should. So,
yeah. Well, UCF got Georgia Tech this year, and did you watch that game? They dominated them. It was close for a little bit, but then the difference. That team is dangerous on offense, man. They are fast. They got speed all over the field. So it's nothing new because that's the way they've been the last 3 years. And but Rob, what do you think?
I mean, to be honest, you got to look at both individuals though, and you got to make the best decision. The right decision for each individual. And the reason why I said it is because within collegiate athletes, college sports, there are certain other options. And I think that both of these two young men have great athletic ability and can strive in the next level. But you got to give them that opportunity. So you actually have to look at, both situation and make what's right for both of them. If the guy you got in right now is winning games and he can be gone in a year and go to the NFL, let him play it out. But then you also got to give Milton a shot because that's who got you the notoriety. That's who got you there.
Yeah.
So it's a sticky situation. But then you also got to consider how healthy is Milton because he's coming off a hell of an injury.
Yeah.
So really, to me, I mean, I can't say who to pick up because I'm not in the locker room. I don't know the extent of the injury. I don't know if it's fully healed. I don't know if it can hurt him any longer. And I don't know, if this young kid that they got playing for him right now can hold out any longer either. So it's a hell of a situation to put both guys in. But, I always take the term that you're always as good as your last game. And if this kid is who you got in there right now, and he's winning games and he's real fire, that's who you go for.
Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree. The only problem is Milton is because I care about the kid. Not that I know him or anything like that, but I mean I care about him because I've watched him play. I'm not sure if the opting out rule, because I should have did a little research into that, if that would allow him to if he said, okay, I'm going to opt out for 2020, if they just said, even when he got cleared and they told him we're still going to roll with Gabriel, if he could opt out and then have another year to go somewhere else. There's a few teams that if he was able to do that and go somewhere else and still have one more year eligibility, he could make dangerous in some big time conferences. But if that's not the case, and at the end of this year, this is his last year in college, I might have to consider everything that he's done for their program. I mean, this isn't the NFL. This is completely different area. You know what I mean? So a player like that can build your program. Who was UCF? They beat Baylor, but then they went and they won one game the next year, and they were like a joke, and they weren't any good the next year. So he's helped them build that program. I would have liked to have seen Scott Frost stay there because I think UCF is just an invitation from a big time conference away from exploding onto the scene because they're in an excellent hotbed for recruiting. They got one of the best workout facilities. They got one of the best facilities in the country. I think they got the largest campus in Florida. So there's a huge potential down there, bro. If they could just get into a conference, But moving on from there, we're going to talk.
Real quick, Malachi.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could interject real quick, just speaking on what you're saying on the rules in the NCAA period are crazy. I mean, because you look at a situation with De'Aaron King, he was a redshirt senior. Where you ever hear that from? How you get redshirted as a senior? And then you also
Yeah,
got this kid coming out from Minnesota who was a wide receiver who hired an agent because he opted out. And then now he's trying to get special permission to get a waiver to come back to Minnesota because the Big Ten went ahead and said that they're going to start their season now. So, I mean, I'm just saying, just on those two things alone, you never know.
yeah. Crazy rule.
All right, so we'll move on to we'll take a look at the schedule this week. I don't know if we can see that. There's some interesting games. I believe there's only one top 25 game on the schedule. Let me take a different look. I think that's Kentucky at Auburn. Have you taken a look at the schedule, Kevin?
Yeah, the games that stood out to me, because this is basically for me in college, because college in general is just wacky this year with the seasons cut and everything. But the game that really stood out to me, the two games, is it's Florida at Ole Miss, because they didn't have an off season, and in college, as we all know, the talent level is the biggest. It's the biggest factor. It's the biggest separator. And Florida, obviously, they're always top 10, top 12 talent wise, but Ole Miss is always top 25 talent wise. And Ole Miss can beat Florida. They're talented. They're fast enough. They're big enough for sure. So Florida's going down there with QBs, two of them, I believe, on the roster who are experienced and they can play, but Ole Miss, neither of them had an offseason, and crazier things have happened. It's a road game in the SEC. That one caught my eye, and then the other one that caught my eye was the Mississippi State LSU. For a lot of the same reasons. LSU's breaking in a new QB, no offseason. And Mississippi State's got not the Mad, I was gonna say the Mad Hatter. They got the Pirate coaching them now, one of my favorite coaches.
Yes.
He needed an off season, but I think it could be interesting. Mississippi State and LSU tend to have a lot of close ball games. I just thought those two, they just happen to be in the SEC, but every game is going to be an interconference game this year anyway. So,
yeah. I'm hoping that Oklahoma and Kansas State actually happens. I haven't heard the official word. I think they said Friday is going to be the determination. Speaking about Kansas State, I believe that their week one loss to Arkansas State, they were missing like 30 to 40 players, according to the coach. Like you're clearly seeing who was able to deal with COVID the best and who wasn't able to deal with it at all. Another thing I took away from last week, I came into the season believing Oklahoma State was a legitimate contender, not only for the Big 12, but to run the table and possibly get into the playoffs. After last week, Texas is going to whoop them. So I'm not worried about them. Even when Spencer was out there, maybe because they didn't have no time. They didn't get and maybe they'll get better by the season. But we've seen these teams aren't giving a fuck. I'm not having no compassion on you. If you didn't handle COVID well, we're going to beat the brakes off of you and make a name for ourselves, kind of like Arkansas State did. And then they almost lost last week to a team that was inferior to Kansas State, which is funny. But Rob, we'll start with you. What do you think about how COVID is affecting the way some of these teams are starting to the season? I know your team is what? Are they 0-2?
No, 0-1. Nice try. 0-1. Nice try. But no, you're absolutely correct. Because and then there's stuff like this with the Kansas State thing that comes out, and we didn't know about it on game day. They didn't release that information on game day. I'm pretty sure if they did, they could have possibly got that postponed and avoided a loss there. But no, instead they took it. But that's why I'm looking forward to actually these games coming up, because we have some teams right now that are playing their first game coming up this weekend. And there are some big matchups actually. So there are a couple top 25 matchups. You have 2-0 Army, they're ranked number 22, and they're going up against Cincinnati, which, by the way, a lot of people predicted pre-Big Ten coming into the mix, predicted them to be in the college football playoffs. I'm talking about Cincinnati. You had that game.
Pat McAfee picked them on College Game Day, made the playoffs.
And,
but that was before the Big Ten came into the picture.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you got Louisville sitting there still at number 24 against 2-0 Pittsburgh, who's number 21 right now. So that's a good-looking game right there. But then I'm interested in seeing what these other teams can do as far as the big schools, so to speak. You got Alabama finally playing, and they're playing Missouri. So I'm interested in seeing how that game goes. The LSU thing is that the coach said damn near everybody got COVID. He said everybody on the team got COVID somewhere or had it. So I'm interested in seeing how their bodies are, how they handle the fatigue and the conditioning on it. I think this weekend is very interesting. You got Tennessee playing South Carolina. And they're both having the first game. So really, I think that there is some big games coming up this weekend. But as far as COVID goes, I think some of these teams are going to get shook. I'm picking one. I don't know if it's that time in the show yet, though. But I'm picking the upset. I'll save it, though.
Okay. Games I was looking at, and there was I like that Kentucky at Auburn game. I want to see where Mark Stoops has that program right now. They've had some good recruiting classes. They've taken some strides, but if they could beat Auburn opening night, that could set them up for a nice run this year. I'm not saying they can beat Auburn. I'm really interested in that, and I want to see Tyreek King versus Florida State. Tyreek King is a guy that I truly believe as he goes, Miami will go this year later in the season. I know that they've built their kind of like the reputation the last few years on defense, but it hasn't gotten them nowhere really. They need offense, and I think he's a guy that can bring them offense. And I think he's a guy that can compete, depending on how good Miami, what they achieved this year. Tyreek King is a guy that could get an invite to New York because he's that type of player. He's special. But we'll move on to some picks. Rob, you said you had an upset this week, so we'll start with you. Who are you taking in your upset?
These people gonna kill me, man. Arkansas over Georgia.
Wow. Why Arkansas over Georgia, bro?
Georgia's not ready. Let's just say that. Georgia's not ready.
All right, Kevin. What you got to upset this week, or what's a lock for you this week?
The lock I got is Miami over Florida State, and it's not for the fact that Miami is my second school, if you will, after the Oregon Ducks. It's just Florida State's been in disarray for a long time. And Norvell, he's a good coach, but he just didn't have an offseason, and he got COVID. So he's been away from them, and I just don't see them. I don't see them winning that rivalry game on the road. If I had to pick an upset, I don't know if it's going to be an upset, but I guess more for like the bettors out there. I'm a bettor. I really like Mississippi State's chances of covering the spread versus LSU. I think it's 16.5. Those ugly teen numbers, those get covered all the time anyways, but there's two teams. I mean, LSU's got the talent edge. Mississippi State's no slouch, and they're a huge football team. Mike Leach really knows what he's doing with the X's and O's as far as coaching goes. He's going to put pressure on them. If they get an early lead, look out for that upset all game if they get an early lead on LSU, because they lost that five-star coordinator. He went to the Panthers. Joe Brady. He's on the Panthers now. And before Joe Brady, it was a long time before LSU had an actual, real, breathing offense where they could pass the ball college football teams do now. So I wouldn't be surprised at all without Joe Burrow there now, without Joe Brady there now, if they revert back with no offseason and they're slow out the gates on offense. And Mike Leach has Mississippi State humming for any reason, throwing in the first quarter, throwing the ball, 60 times a game. Yeah. Strange things have happened. So,
okay. My lock for this week is Oklahoma over Kansas State. Should they play? It's not because of the homer pick. Just that I believe Oklahoma is an elite team, and I don't believe Kansas State is very good. I had them coming into the season probably finishing near the bottom. I think they'll finish above Kansas, and maybe that's about it.
I'm sorry, real quick. Did Kansas State beat Oklahoma last year? I can't remember.
That was last year.
No, I'm just asking because I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. Jalen Hurts. Oh, yeah, it was last year. It was. Okay.
Yeah. What I'm going to say to this is, you have two teams.
I really don't.
And neither one of them can be relevant when it comes to holding up the trophy. So let's not. Y'all made the first playoff and ain't made it back since. You only made one BCS in the entire existence of the BCS.
Hey, listen. The Ducks made 2 national championship games in a 5-year period. That's impressive. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah,
and say about that.
Well, I mean, if we bringing up stuff, but I'm gonna my upset pick. I was gonna take Texas Tech over Texas, but I just can't do it. I gotta take Texas in that matchup. But my upset is gonna be Army over Cincinnati. I think like my man Rob said that Cincinnati had some hype this year. Pat McAfee actually picked them to go to the playoffs, but I think that hype ends this week. I think Army beats them. All right.
Wow.
So we're gonna jump into I know we're kind of 2 weeks in, but we're gonna sit down and we have more of the picture because we know the SEC is coming in this week. We know the Big Ten's joining next month, and after that, the Pac-12's coming in November. So let's get to our season picks. Who are your 4 playoff teams, Rob, and who wins it all?
Man, I can't lie. It's hard to tell because it's so early. I mean, it's just there's a lot of teams that we haven't seen. But if I had to come down to it, I'm going with the big schools. I'm going with Ohio State. That's an obvious. I'm going with Alabama. I think they can do it and they can get in there this year. I'm going with I hate to say this, Oklahoma. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. And then and people can shoot me all they want to for this pick. It's a surprise pick, and everybody's been picking them. But we're talking about a COVID year, and we're talking about a team that can run the table. And I got a team that can run the table right now in UCF.
Wow. Did you take Clemson?
I did not take Clemson.
You did not take Clemson.
You didn't stutter.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll give mine and let Kevin go. All right, my 4 teams is I'm taking Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and UCF. I agree with you. I think UCF runs the table this year, and I think their win over Georgia Tech helps them in the eyes of the committee, especially when the Pac-12 is only going to have 8 games with no non-conference. Nobody else played. You break it down, who really played the best non-conference game of the year this year? It might be UCF. And then they played Georgia Tech. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Because nobody else is playing them. So that's another notch in their ammunition. So those are my 4. I am taking Clemson to win the national championship. Go ahead, Kevin.
I love the heart of my colleagues here picking the UCF. It's the right thing. They should have made the playoff already once. But it's not going to happen. COVID year, non-COVID year, they're not going to put them in. UCF can win every game by 40. It ain't going to happen. Clemson's going to make it. No one else. Yeah, Clemson's going to make it. They're going to run the table in the ACC. Whoever wins the Big 12 right now, I have a sneaky suspicion Texas with, 4th year now starting senior QB. I just have a sneaky suspicion Texas pulls it off. They've been disappointments for about a decade, it seems like. I know you hate that, but I think
I love it because every year you pick them, they lose 3 games.
Every time I pick Texas, they have an 8-4 season. Every time I pick Texas, but he loves
it.
So I'm just gonna go with Texas. The Big 12 champ will be in, though. Big 12 champ will be in, and that'll either be Texas or Oklahoma this year. Clemson, the SEC champ, which I have to by default go Alabama, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if like Auburn won or one of like 3 other West teams. It just wouldn't surprise me at all. What I can tell you is this: it ain't gonna be Georgia, and it ain't gonna be anyone else from the East. So forget about that, including Florida. They're chokers. So, and then the last playoff team, Ohio State. It's just gonna be those 4 conferences, those 4 big conferences, and Ohio State's gonna win the Big Ten. And then the winner, I think, will be Clemson. I don't think there's a team as good as LSU this year that's going to be able to overcome what is arguably one of the greatest coaching staffs in history, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, head coach, that Clemson's had going for like 4 years now, and it's just been they've been untouchable basically. And this year, I don't think there's no super LSU team on the table that's going to stop. What's his name, Sunshine, from getting another national championship. So, but
I don't think anybody thought there was an LSU team coming into last season either. And if they did, it was more Alabama than LSU.
So that's a great point. But as you and I both know, like, and Phil Steele does a really good job of this. It's like range of outcomes, right? Mm-hmm. LSU last year had a really high range of outcomes as long as their offense improved. Well, their offense improved way more than anyone thought. But look at most of the games they played. They didn't need Joe Burrow to throw 60 touchdowns last year to go undefeated. He could have thrown 40, and he still could have ran the table. You know, with the exception of maybe the Alabama game, that was the only game they really needed. I could think of where they like really needed that A+ level play. So I just don't see another, because of the offseason being killed and because there just wasn't a lot of like, oh, I got 16 returning starters. We got our quarterback returning and his top 2 receivers. There just wasn't a lot of that to begin with this year. And then except for like maybe Ohio State and Clemson, you know, Oklahoma lost their QB. They're starting the Rattler, the freshman, right? So, I mean, it's just, there just isn't a lot of competition for those guys. Yes, you did, because Hurts can't pass, and I'm pissed off on my Eagles. It makes no sense. You can't throw. I don't get it. Can't read a defense, but whatever.
So,
yeah, but
go ahead, Rob.
What was I going to tell you? Oh, last year with the LSU too, and a lot of teams last year that people didn't take in consideration were the transfers. And that's why LSU really came into fold, because like you said, if their offense improved, well, they got that transfer. Didn't nobody really know how good he was, and we see he's the #1 overall pick. But aside from that, the reason why I'm not picking Clemson is because they got a battle in week 10 against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is now in the conference, y'all. And that's a dangerous team. That's a dangerous team. So I just wanted to defend myself kind of there and tell you.
Actually, I probably, now that I think about it, because I had them losing 1 game this year. I don't think Ohio State loses a game, so I might have to take Clemson out of mine and put Ohio State in. I think I really do. I got to take them out after I really think about it.
Oh, see, now you're going to do me like that, Malachi. When people usually take somebody out and put somebody in, that's a jinx.
Go ahead, Kevin. No, you good. Go ahead, Kevin. What you have to say? No, you good.
Oh no, I was saying is the Notre Dame game, is that in Indiana, or is that
That's in Indiana.
There should be fans by then too, if there aren't already. There should be fans by then, because they're really letting up on all this stuff. You know, the ride's over, as I like to put it. Yeah. It's just about over. So things, as far as these teams go, the NFL and college, you should see everyone being able to get back to their seats pretty soon here.
Agreed. All right. Well, the only thing left for us to pick for our preseason, it's not really our preseason, but our opening show this week will be our Heisman picks. I'll start off. I think Justin Fields wins the Heisman. I think that the 3 invites will be Spencer Rattler. I think it'll be Justin Fields and the kid from Clemson, but I think Justin Fields will win the Heisman. And we'll go. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Sunshine Trevor Lawrence. You know, he's been pretty much in the conversation. I mean, freshman year not so much, but he was in the conversation all year last year. Even though I don't think he got an invite. But with this shortened season and with how the Heisman works, you know, with popularity and everything like that, it's really going to be Derek King has a good shot if Miami can really make noise. And I don't think they play Clemson this year, but they would if they run the table. They play in the championship game. So Derek King has a shot, outside shot, but I'll go with Sunshine.
Yeah, we all know he's going to the NFL probably after this year, meaning Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine. But I do want to there are some unsung heroes out there right now that are playing Heisman level ball that people aren't paying attention to, and they need to in COVID season. And I'm talking about the quarterback for Louisiana. And I had to mention him because he is a star in the making. This kid has came out of nowhere to beat Iowa State. Came from a tough game last week to win that game, and he's putting up big numbers. And if the season continues the way that it is right now, you have to consider a guy like him in that running because he's a very tough look.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but once they get into Sun Belt play, Rob, and I agree with you, he's balling, and these are guys we should look at. But once they get into Sun Belt play, it's over for him. He can put up 700 yards, and they're gonna be like, it's the Sun Belt. They're gonna we know how they do this. You know what I mean? But who else?
No, I agree.
But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just, you know what I mean?
No, it's all good. I agree with you, but it's just. Look at Hubbard with Oklahoma State underperforming. Look at these big guys, these big teams right now. Look at all these cats in Notre Dame, which is a very good team, but they don't have anybody with that Heisman candidate level because they're underperforming right now. All the numbers are low right now for these guys, and you don't know if they're going to be able to rise to the occasion or not. So that's why I think a guy like somebody from Louisiana can get in because let's face it, they haven't been ranked in the top 25 even in how many years?
Yeah.
And they got that ranking right now. So somebody is going to get that notoriety is all that I'm saying. Okay. But Trevor Lawrence, though, he's number one for me because we all know he's not lasting another year. He's out after this year. He's championship or bust. He's Heisman or bust. Period. He's going for it all.
I agree. If Derek King is my dark horse, and I think if Derek King and Miami have the type of season and that it would require, and that would also mean beating Clemson, and that at that point, then I would see Derek King getting actually the invite and not Trevor Lawrence, that's something to keep an eye on.
I'm surprised neither of you picked UCF. Whoever winds up with the job, since you both have them going undefeated anyways. I mean, I think that's a real high possibility their quarterback gets in by, especially if it's Mackenzie Milton. The story behind that, the comeback, you can pencil him in. Yeah, you pencil him in a New York. Yeah, if that's the case.
Yeah, they do love stories. All right. From here, we're gonna pass it over to the co-host Kevin. He's going to take over. We're talking NFL football.
All right.
You're going to host
NFL. College football is king. It's just they got a short season this year. But NFL's been good so far this year. It's been interesting because without the offseason, you're really seeing which guys are the professionals and which guys are not. But my first question I want to ask is, given what's transpired all offseason and given the nature of how you win games in the NFL versus how you win them in college, what do you guys see as the, top two, give me two, determining factors that are for winning games this year, or in any year really in the NFL. Obviously in college, size, speed, talent, that's the biggest thing. There's a reason why Oklahoma wins 11 games every year. But in the NFL, everything's a level playing field. Everyone was a star in college, a star in high school. So the backups were stars. So it's a lot different. So give me you guys as your top two things for winning football games at the NFL level. And then this year in particular, which team do you think is like kind of I don't want to say like a Super Bowl sleeper, but a team no one's high on right now, not expecting much from, but you see them, at the very least making the playoffs and pulling upsets all season. Malachi.
The team I see that I was kind of up and shocked by, and I don't see anybody really talking about other than their fan base who I don't really like. I'm a hard time to get along with sometimes. The Raiders, and you know how much I hate the Raiders, bro. I don't like the Raiders. I think they're 2-0 now, and so
they're 2-0,
and they beat the Saints, and they look good doing it. And the offense is starting to look good. I'm hoping it's just starting off the season hot, and then later on they turn back into the Raiders because I really don't like the Raiders. I like making fun of their fans. But the two things I think that wins in the NFL is don't turn the ball over, and turning the ball over. You know what I mean? Especially in this season because teams didn't get off season. I think that some of the teams that may have stumbled out in the gate later on in the season may get hot after they've gotten to play together. It did show me whose staffs are on top of things. It also showed me, bro, it may not matter. You may not just be able to beat Kansas City because just Kansas City has looked they were bad last week. They were bad. And then in the fourth quarter, they just flicked the switch and won the game. So those are the two things, though, that I think that determines what wins football games is not turning the ball over and getting turnovers.
Okay. Rob, before you go, I just want to make one quick point. The Raiders, they manhandled the Saints in the trenches. And that's that recipe where if you can keep running it and you can give it to your lead back 20, 25 times, it takes a lot of stuff off the plate. So they might stick around longer than people think. Rob, you're on mute. Go ahead.
No, I was just listening in, man, because I love what you guys are saying. I'm high on the Raiders, too. And the Raiders got two things most important that you need, and that's superstars. That tight end, Darren Waller, is a superstar. Jacobs is a superstar. And they're now finally able to build teams around them. Derek Carr, not so much. I mean, I'm sorry. That's their Achilles heel. That's why I really don't put them high on the horse. But the two things I think you need in COVID right now, and the two things most important, which we're starting to see from teams, number one, of course, is health. And then I'm not talking about COVID health. I'm talking about the injuries. Look at Saquon Barkley. He's done for the season. You got multiple injuries over there in San Francisco. That team might be in trouble. So you got to be healthy and you got to keep health. And then the second thing is momentum. And you talked about that momentum like within the Raiders. They got that momentum right now going for them. They've been able to manhandle teams like the Saints. But my surprise team, and it shouldn't be because they went far in the playoffs last year, but because they're playing everybody close right now. But people don't see it because they're 2-0, but they're playing teams that are close. Is the Tennessee Titans. Mm-hmm. I think the Titans are going to go far because they know who they are and they have that momentum, and they're going to be able to build upon that to a big run throughout the playoffs. My sleeper team, though, is the Washington Redskins. And that's because I think that their defense is on the come up and actually on the rise. And I think they have with Chase Young to build upon. I think they can build upon an elite defense that we can see throughout the year. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but defense is really what wins the games to me.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting you brought the Titans. Ryan Tannehill is got to be the most disrespected quarterback walking around the NFL right now. I mean, and it ain't just a fantasy football thing. I mean, he's disrespected there too, but it's just in general, because Miami, the Dolphins have been the Dolphins forever. And because he had injury issues, people don't really realize how good a QB he's actually been in his career. I mean, this is his third major contract. You don't get 3 contracts in the NFL if you can't play. Colin Kaepernick couldn't get 2 without getting into all that. Jameis Winston couldn't get 2. I mean, he threw 30 touchdowns, I think, twice in his career or something like that. A lot of guys don't get 2 who seem more talented, but they're really not. So the Titans, I think the Titans are super underrated. People are just expecting them to fall off. That's the main reason. And, when it doesn't happen at this point, opposed to if, when it doesn't happen, then it's like, oh, well, that's just the Titans, So it's one of those things where narrative really drive a lot of it. I would say, hold up a second. Hey, Malachi, you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, because we hear everything in the background you're doing.
I was having
hit mute. Okay. All right. The 2 things I look at for games, deciding who's going to win or lose, especially this year, though, it's like we're saying, turnovers. Turnovers are always king in the NFL because you only get so many possessions and you only get the margin of victory is so damn skinny. You just don't have that much room to make mistakes. So turnovers are usually the key indicator of who wins and loses. And then the second one is just game script. Some of the times these teams, like a team like the Raiders, they need to run the ball. They need to run the ball. So if they go down 14 points because of a fumble and just a good drive, they go on 14 in the first quarter real quick. Well, now that takes Josh Jacobs out of the game more than they would like. And he's arguably their best player on offense. They need the ball in his hands. So they need the O-line running forward, not running backwards. So Titans are kind of the same way, but Tannehill's actually a really good QB where Derek Carr is just he's just there. So moving on, next thing, Malachi, if you can hear us, I'll have you go first. What's been your biggest surprise so far this season? Can't say injuries, but just how the season started the first 2 weeks and what everyone was expecting because of COVID and no preseason. Never had that happen before. Well, one other time, but things like that. Like, what's been your biggest shock, like team, good or bad?
It has, bro. I know you said not the injuries, but it has to be, bro. Injuries are insane. The 49ers are a walking hospital right now. And the fact that they beat the Jets like they did last week is hilarious to me because of all the shit that Colin Cowherd talked about how great Sam Darnold was going to be. I think you did too, but moving on from there, the Bills have actually surprised me a bit. Josh Allen, I got to give him his credit. I'm not high on the boy. They haven't played exactly the best competition either, so I'm not going to say I was wrong on him yet because he wasn't that good last year either. I mean, it is what it is. He was average last year, bro. He was average. He was a better runner than a thrower. This year, he looks the part, and but it is early, so I'll kick it over to Rob.
Man, that's harsh on a playoff winning QB there for Josh Allen.
No, they lost.
Especially he went to the playoffs and he earned himself a bye in the playoffs last year.
No, so they played the wild card, didn't they? They lost to the
Texans.
Texans. Yeah.
They lost to the Texans. That was his first playoff game. He lost to the Texans.
Yeah, they lost to the Texans. But was it the first or the second round?
It was the first round. The Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs had a bye, bro.
All right. Well, you got me on that one. But either way, he's still a playoff quarterback. Mm-hmm. I like Josh Allen. My surprises, though, right now in the NFL are a few things. And number one, I had to give myself a pat on the back for this one because I told people I seen it coming. The Seahawks have signed the best safety defensive back in the game, period. And they stole him. They stole him away from the New York Jets because he was unhappy there. And look at it. Look at how he's played in the first 2 games. This man is a major game changer. Major. And he's got the Seahawks looking like they in contention for another Super Bowl because he's that great. And single-handedly, he's running the defense. He's not just in the back in the defensive backs. He's going up for sacks. He's knocking the running back down. He's making all types of plays for that defense. And I'm talking Jamal Adams. For the Seahawks. That's a major thing that's happening in the NFL that people slept on when they got him from the Jets. The other thing. Go ahead, bud.
No, you're good, Rob. Go ahead.
The other thing that surprises me is, and Kevin, I'm sorry if you was gonna mention this, but it has to be mentioned. Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals. He's in his sophomore year. We talking about people in their sophomore year. Look at Lamar Jackson won the MVP in his sophomore year. And your boy Kyler Murray is looking just like that right now.
I'm glad someone said I didn't want to bring him up because I don't want to be a homer.
But you have to. The kid is balling. Now he did get help. He did get plenty of help because DeAndre Hopkins is no joke. But still, the way he's running the offense, the way he's moving around, I thought he was exciting last year, and this year he's just over the top. So those are my two biggest. You want to say takeaways or whatnot of the year. I don't necessarily know if they're surprises, but those are my big takeaways right now.
Yeah, Rob, that's interesting you bring up Kyler. I've been saying for a long time, a lot of QBs get a bad rap because they just don't have good players to throw the ball to. McNabb. But and then you see Kyler Murray, and it was his rookie year, so there's going to be ups and downs. But then in his sophomore season, he gets an elite receiver. Just game one, he gets an elite receiver. So early in his career, he gets to play with that. It's like Peyton Manning getting to play with Marvin Harrison, and then Reggie Wayne a year later, basically. Joe Montana had, I think it was a year, maybe 2 years before Jerry Rice came around. When you get an elite player like that or players, it just makes all the difference in the world in your development. So Kyler's been. If anyone wasn't sold on Kyler before, now getting DeAndre Hopkins early in his career like this, it's just there's no way the Cardinals aren't going to maximize on that draft pick taking him. There's just no way. And you mentioned the sophomore QB thing. That's one of the greatest indicators of if a quarterback really gets it and is going to be a good player is if he's good his sophomore season, which is why another quarterback in the league is going to be terrible and is terrible and will continue to be terrible. Brandon's hero, one of them, Baker Mayfield. The guy was terrible as a sophomore. He was terrible. And
he played much better towards the end of the year, bro.
And listen, I'm going to let Baker live today. We'll get to him later. But I just want to say he's my best example, like current example, like a QB looks good first year, no one has tape. And then second season.
Mariota's second year, wasn't he good?
Mariota's second year. Mariota can't stay healthy, bro. I'm not gonna get into Mariota. Mariota can't stay healthy though.
So you just base this stuff.
Listen, I didn't say it was foolproof. I'm just saying that's a strong indicator. It's a strong indicator. Injuries, obviously, if you're getting hurt your first rookie contract as a quarterback, you're not out there taking reps. You're focusing on rehabbing instead of learning. That's going to derail your career. That's why Sam Darnold's not going to be any good either. And if you get drafted to a bad situation, you're probably not going to be any good. But my biggest takeaway so far this season is, and I kind of saw this coming, when there's no offseason, there's no defense. And I know some people expect it to go back to the mean this week, and maybe it will a little bit. But overall, you can expect the fireworks to continue all year because they didn't have a preseason. They didn't have an offseason to speak of. And it's already hard enough to stop teams in the NFL, especially with all these dual threats. I'm losing count how many legit dual threat QBs we got now. Cam Newton's playing like Superman again. Making what's his name's about to be a head coach, Josh McDaniels. He looks like the Tim Tebow offense would have worked great if he just didn't have Tim Tebow. He had Cam Newton, and that's what they're running now. And it's just another Russell Wilson. I mean, there's just too many dual threats. These defenses don't have the answers. So I'm expecting we're going to see a lot more 40-40 games like we saw with Dallas and Atlanta over the weekend. We're going to see a bunch more of those. And if Carson Wentz wasn't stinking it up, you'd see some in these Philly games. But we'll see what happens.
Speaking of that Dallas game, bro, those Atlanta players are the dumbest football players I've ever seen, bro. I'm just, like, who doesn't know? Why didn't they just go grab the ball? I was dumbfounded. I was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
So Malachi, I'm here in Atlanta. Oh, I'm here in Atlanta. And let me tell you, I hate the Falcons. I'm a Florida football fan, diehard. I stay with Florida football. I hate the Falcons. And I shedded a tear for these people last weekend. I had to shed a tear for these people, dog. These people were so happy. And when I say Atlanta down here, football is just as big as Texas. It's just as big as Florida. Trust me, they're huge on football down here in the South, period. And these fans are loyal as all get up to these Falcons. And to see them do this again, I shedded a tear for these people, man, because they didn't even want to watch it. There was people crying in the bar. There was people, man, I'm not lying, man. There was people crying in the bar, people fighting, throwing up. I seen all emotions that day.
Can you imagine? Like, I've been thinking about this for a few days now because I'm a competitor. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I want to compete and I want to win. Just imagine being a Falcons player in that locker room after the game, man. I'm cussing everybody out. I'm just people are getting cussed out. We're having fights, maybe, I don't know, but it ain't gonna be what we doing after the game? We trying to go here? Nah, man. We just blew like another 20-point lead, 28-3 at halftime, and we just did it again. It's just I can't even imagine being in a locker room like that after a loss like that. The sickness. The gut wrenching like feeling, and you can't shake it. You can't shake it all week.
The thing with Atlanta though is their offense gives them the chance to beat anybody, but it also gives because they don't run the ball. They can't run the ball, so anybody can come back on them too because they can't control the clock. So
I mean, they got Gurley. Gurley looks good. Don't get me wrong. You can Gurley looks good for them, but the play calls are horrible. The defense is horrible, and that's the bottom line.
And also the O-line, and this is bridging back to college and to me just scouting. I didn't like either of those first-round picks they took in the O-line last year, so I'm not surprised they can't run the ball because they're counting on those two young guys. The center, I forget his name. He's from the Browns, but I think he was hurt. I'm not sure, but he's old. Matthews is getting up there. They just don't have that good of an O-line, but Matt Ryan's Matt Ryan. He makes up for it and makes them look better than they are. But they ain't going to be able to run the ball much on people. It's just going to be throwing to Julio, throwing to Ridley, throwing to, I guess, Russell Gage now too. So,
But there's kind of also the way we've seen the NFL start to move. Which is what I've always, because I've been knowing Kevin. He's been my protege since 2009. I think, you know what I mean? And we've had this discussion. And I remember back in 2009, we was talk about, the spread's coming to the NFL and people would laugh at us. They'd be, you all are idiots. No, but no, the spread's coming to the NFL. Watch. And now we're starting to see, now it's not the same type of air raid that we see, in college football, but spread is in the NFL, man. Teams are spreading you out now. They're spreading you out to run the football because it creates lanes. We learned that in college football. That's what we've seen. And I think, they came down to Oklahoma to pick Riley's brain because they want to get these college concepts because they get people wide open. And that's what you want. So I agree with Kevin. I think, though, in the future, the non-defense, we're going to see a lot of that, bro.
Yeah. The NFL always copies college football, always. All the innovative ideas come from high school and college. a high school to college, college to high school, whatever. But they always go there first, and then the NFL picks up later after, always last to the party because it's just too much groupthink. They can't help it. New ideas, it just takes too long. Good ideas, it takes too long for guys to adopt because they don't want to lose their job. And I remember being Brandon, we would argue people so much about that. And now you look at it, every team runs college, what used to be gimmick spread offense. Oregon doesn't work. Everyone runs it. Every team runs it. Even teams with slow statue quarterbacks like Jared Goff are running read option to some extent, trying to get a look off a linebacker or a safety to get an easy throwing lane. So there's no stopping that train.
They'll run pass options. If you get a quarterback that can run that right, that's a bitch. Because it's hard to defend. You know what I mean?
Who can read defenses? Yeah, like Patrick Mahomes, or Russell Wilson. It's rough. Last topic, guys. We don't need to go every division, but give me 3 legit teams you think from each conference that you think basically those are the 3, Super Bowl teams right now. Just give me 3 from each conference.
Start with Rob.
You would start with me. You said 3?
Yeah, 3.
It's a little hard because to me, Kansas City and Baltimore are neck and neck, and we see them play each other this weekend. So that's a little harder for me to choose between one of the two. But if I would have to right now, I'm going with Baltimore. And I'm going with Baltimore because of what I've seen with the Chiefs having issues with a rookie quarterback last week. And Baltimore's got that top-notch defense. I like Baltimore. I like Seattle, obviously. I like Baltimore. I like Seattle. And I hate to do this as much as I hate to do this. Green Bay. I like Green Bay. And that's because Aaron Rodgers, but not only him, Aaron Jones. The 2 Aarons in Green Bay's are balling right now. And I don't see nobody really stopping them that much.
Okay. What you got, Malachi?
My 3 in the AFC, I like Buffalo. And, and I think
Wait,
Baltimore.
after you just respected them, you like Buffalo?
I like Buffalo. I don't see anyone. Well, can Cam continue to be this good? Because we've seen flashes of Cam play this good, and then we've seen the bad Cam take over and just have a longer stretch of bad Cam. You know what I mean? But he is in a better situation. I came into the year, I was picking Buffalo to win that division. I'm not going to change it now based on the first 2 weeks. Although I do now respect New England a lot more after what I've seen. But I still want to take Buffalo. I like Baltimore. But the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the AFC. And in the NFC, I like Seattle, Green Bay, and I like Dallas. I think Dallas can make some noise. They've played bad, but they've also had some flashes of really good football.
Brilliant.
So, you know what I mean? So I like Dallas. I think they could turn the corner. I think they have to, or you know what I mean? There'll be some shakeups there this year. But Kansas City wins the whole thing again.
I mean, you would I would say you would go with that, but they got okay. I'm just gonna say we'll see after Monday. So I don't think they winning that game, man. From what I'm seeing, I don't think they're winning.
I believe Pat Mahomes is 2-0 versus Lamar.
Yeah, but Lamar's got that. He's got that under his belt, and that's extra motivation for him. What motivation does Mahomes have right now? He's the highest paid man in the NFL.
Yeah. Off of Super Bowl. Commercials. I ain't seen no Lamar commercials. Have you seen Lamar commercials? I haven't seen them. I feel like Lamar's being disrespected a little bit,
Even right now, he is. Nobody's talking about – they're all still talking about Patrick Mahomes. And Lamar and Lamar in Baltimore has been putting up more points than Kansas City. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all made some good points. It's easy to pick Kansas City, but teams don't repeat for a reason. And I mean, as good a coach as Andy Reid's always been, he's also had issues. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes has to stay upright. I don't like the way the Chiefs O-line looks right now. I think they need to work some things out a little bit because they got to keep him healthy. They got to keep him upright, or that's it, because he's the whole team. Mahomes is the whole team. They can have all the good players they want, Kelsey, all that, but if Pat's not on the field, dissecting defenses the way he is and making plays out of nothing every 10 snaps, then they're just not the same team. But yeah, Kansas City, Super Bowl threat, Baltimore, obviously, as well. What I like about Baltimore and teams like the Bills even, and teams like the Patriots now with Cam, and Bill Belichick obviously is the best coach in the league, but people underestimate running QBs. And, because of the push to analytics and nerd think with football from people who never played, they forget that, when you run the football, you eliminate a lot of potential negative plays that can happen, like sack fumbles, injuries from sack fumbles, and of course interceptions, tip balls. Whereas when you hand the ball off to a running back or the quarterback just runs with it, it's pretty much, can they secure the ball? Okay, usually they do, and then you're good. And if you're not turning the ball over and you're picking up, efficient rush yards to your QB that put pressure on the defense, that stuff adds up over the course of a game, especially if your defense ain't bad. So New England, Buffalo, they really do have a better shot than I think people realize to actually win the AFC. But Baltimore is the king of that right now because Lamar doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions, and they can run the ball 40 times a game every week if they want to. They really can. Going over to the NFC, Seattle, obviously their offense looks killer. Dallas's does, but Dallas, I gave up on them ever doing anything. They're chokers. They'll never win another Super Bowl, no matter what. So I'm not going to give them any real chance. Green Bay looks cool right now. I know people are kind of high on them, but I don't know. I would hold off. I would hold off on them too for the moment. Maybe I just need to see them play someone better first. But we'll see what happens with the Saints this week. I still like Tampa. I still like New Orleans because they both can run the ball and they both can do whatever they want on offense when they're healthy. Michael Thomas has to get back. And the team that I really like, other than Seattle, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I like the Cardinals. If the Cardinals can keep every week making their biggest weakness by far on the team irrelevant, and that is their O-line. That is their weakest group by far. If they can just line up and still score points and still Kyler's doing his thing and they're still getting the ball to their best players, to DeAndre, then it doesn't matter. And that's a huge, huge advantage each week if Cliff Kingsbury's offense is basically erasing the O-line where it don't even matter. And that defense does look much improved. So that division's killer. The Rams look good. Everyone looks good, but even San Fran, who's a walking hospital, like Malachi said. But if the Cardinals can sneak in the playoffs, man, they got a chance to win every game. So,
hey, Eric told me to tell you he can't comment because he's in Facebook jail, but tell you what's up, one love. He said Lamar Vick is overrated.
Of course he did. Man, I need to hop back on Facebook. I need to hop back on Facebook and collect my W's, man. On Lamar, on Baker's being trash.
Oh my God, you got so many L's, bro. Like if I started bringing up all the L's, bro.
I know. I really don't.
All right. So that was our last topic, and we'll do the show once a week. We just haven't set a day yet because it depends on like Kevin's schedule. But I do a show on Monday and Friday, and I do a lot of shows with Rob on Tuesdays. So we have to pick one of these days in between. I'd like to avoid Thursday night, but so
yeah,
you know what I mean. But either we talked about like a Wednesday or early pre-kickoff Saturday. So and then maybe a show. We got to put something together, but we got some stuff planned, and just hang out with us and talk football. Have some fun, nothing too serious. All right, so I want to thank everybody. Rob, before you go, bro, do you want to tell them if they like boxing and where they want to follow you? Because you do have one of the better shows that I follow.
Thank you. I'm with the Heavy Bag Boxing, heavybagboxing.com. Please, please, please check out my article I just posted today. I put up a little piece to forget about boxing, forget about football, forget about sports. It was a little piece that was from the heart about Breonna Taylor's situation. So check me out at theheavybagboxing.com.
Thank you. All right, and you'll be able to find me and Kevin on the show all the time. Hopefully, I don't know, Rob, what do you want to come along with us, man?
Y'all tell me. Can I hang? I don't know.
Yeah.
Y'all tell me. Did I do all right?
Yeah. All right, well, we'll see you next week, man. Y'all have a blessed evening. We're out.
All right, fellas. Peace.
All right, you got